Parties, and this morning the Coalition is expected to announce it's cutting the company tax rate. For more, we're joined by Shadow Treasurer Joe Hockey in Adelaide. Joe, good morning to you.
Good morning, Carl.
You'll announce it this morning. When will it take effect?
Well, we're looking to take effect on the 1st of July 2015. I think it's really important, Carl, that we have a stepped approach to strengthening the economy, creating growth, creating jobs. So the 1st of July next year, we get rid of the carbon tax and the mining tax. That'll be a stimulus for the economy and for business and job security. And then 1st of July the following year, in kicks a company tax cut. And it gives business that certainty, that stability that they're crying out for, which means they'll have confidence in creating jobs and having a go, trying to grow the economy.
Given, though, the deteriorating fiscal position, as you know only too well, is this the kind of thing responsible? Is it responsible for Treasury to cut when the cupboard's already so bare?
Well, we have to cut, make sensible cuts to expenditure, but we have to be competitive with the rest of the world, Carl. And the fact is that Australia's company tax rate is at the moment 5% above the global average, more than 5% above the global average, higher than the EU average and the OECD average. We need to compete with all these other countries. And business now is more mobile than ever before. They can take their balance sheets and their jobs and go overseas. So we need to do this to grow the economy. And if we grow the economy, we'll have the money for infrastructure. And infrastructure is so important for our cities, for the whole nation, in fact, focusing on ports, on roads particularly, dealing with congestion issues and the basic infrastructure that makes our lives more stable and enjoyable.
Still, though, the problem is when we've already got a drain on budget revenues, this is not going to help. It's going to only further strain them.
Well, there's two things to say here. We've already announced over $15 billion of savings in the budget, and they've been difficult, but we've announced them because they're right. And that will help to pay for this, but we will also, before the election is held, we'll announce further savings in the budget. We're not going to squib on it. You're going to see all the details.
When?
But Carl, I'll just say this: if we don't do this sort of initiative, if we don't start giving business hope that tomorrow will be better than today, they will lay off workers. And my concern at the moment, my significant concern at the moment, is the rising unemployment rate under Kevin Rudd. This is going up and up and up, and 800,000 Australians are going to be unemployed
The
soon.
Australian reports this morning several nationals will cross the floor on the paid parental scheme leave scheme. They don't want it, clearly. How are you going to combat that?
Well, they haven't seen the policy, like Labor hasn't seen the policy. We'll wait and see, Carl. We'll wait and see. But that again, what Tony Abbott has said on paid parental leave is our team policy, and that policy is about lifting the tide, improving productivity, helping mums to get back into the workforce, particularly after they've had a successful career, giving them the chance to have the same level of superannuation throughout their entire career, even though they have had children and have had to exit the workforce for a period of time during after the pregnancy. This is also about giving small business the same level playing field with big business, and how important that is because small business has never been able to compete with big business on paid parental leave. Now we're levelling the playing field, and you'll see more of the details about that over the next few weeks.
The problem is, I would have thought that the Nationals, it is a coalition after all, would have seen the scheme, or at least you would have spoken to them about the scheme. They're saying now, from the outset, without having looked at it, that they're going to cross the floor. They're not going to back it. They're just not into it.
Well, look, Carl, I honestly haven't seen the report, but even so, everyone will be on board. It's coalition policy.
Have you
and
spoken
we've been
to them
saying
about
it
it?
now for 3 years. We've spoken to all of our colleagues. Everyone knows it. It's been our policy for more than 3 years. And it's something that Tony Abbott really believes. He can't understand why his daughters should be disadvantaged in their careers compared to anyone else's sons. And that's a legitimate point. I mean, it's about equality of opportunity for men and women, but importantly, it is about ensuring that someone is not financially penalised for having children. And I think that's so essential as we move forward, because as a nation we're not replacing ourselves, and we want people to be able to afford to have children.
A couple of quick ones for you. John Howard always maintained interest rates would always be lower under a coalition government. I suppose that's going to be a difficult promise for you to make now?
Well, interest rates now are at record lows and they're 0.5% below the emergency level Kevin Rudd talked about. And why? Well, not because the economy is doing well, but because the economy is struggling. And this is hugely important. These are emergency levels. It's not normal activity now. And what we've said is interest rates will always be lower on average under us. And that's because we will have a strong economy, we'll have lower unemployment, and we'll be focused on reducing the cost of living for people, which means getting the interest rate market, the mortgage market, as competitive as possible.
There's a few critics around this morning saying they're not at emergency levels, including the Reserve Bank, some inside the Reserve Bank and certainly some inside Treasury say they're not at reserve levels yet, at those emergency levels yet.
Well, it was Kevin Rudd on the 4th of November 2010 who said that they were at emergency levels. 2009, I think it was actually. It was emergency levels at 3%. They're now 2.5%. Mr. Rudd can explain what an emergency is. He seems to be focused on these sorts of things. But from my perspective, this is not normal activity. This is not a normal level for interest rates because the Reserve Bank is concerned about the state of the Australian economy, and rightly so. So am I.
OK, finally, on a lighter note, depending on which angle you take on this, of course, it's called, the phrase is often referred to as the company you keep. I want to refer you to the picture of Craig Thompson. Now, this is a very grainy photo that's been captured by, I think,